Graham, will you have known at half time that you've made that error, or would that be after the game?
Well, the official answer is no. I'll leave that hanging because you'll know what the unofficial answer is.
Like the manager would say to us, get round to the referee. And the problem we had was every time you do it, if you get booked for dissent, the manager would fine you.
And I don't think we should have VAR in the Championship. I think the Championship is great competition as it is. Leave it alone.
See, for me, that's very interesting because the Premiership is a great competition, so why not leave the Premier League alone?
I wonder what it was like for Graham Scott when he had Wayne Rooney running at him.
Well, he did.
So FA Cup weekend is done. Plenty of headlines, but we're going to start at Villa Park because myself and Wayne were both there watching Newcastle come from behind to beat Aston Villa 3-1. But Wayne, I think it's safe to say that wasn't really the full story of the game, was it?
No, to be honest, it was actually a very good game, and I thought Aston Villa, first half in particular, were good. They defended well and had some really good chances, had the better chances. Newcastle didn't really have any. And then obviously there was the two big decisions. Obviously the goalkeeper getting sent off was a easy decision, if you like, in terms of red card. The only decision actually on that was whether it was denying of a goal scoring opportunity or violent conduct. I'd probably say more violent conduct where the keeper caught him. And then the penalty decision second half, which because we were almost in line with it, and seeing it looked like the referee blew his whistle, and then I felt he was getting advice in his ear. But to give a free kick, I think it was. I said after the game, it's the worst decision I've seen in football. There's probably two other decisions which were as bad, which was the Frank Lampard one at the World Cup and the Roy Carroll one against Tottenham when it was over the line. But on them two, I think the linesman had no opportunity to get up in line and see that for sure. But with this one, I feel like the linesman was in a very good position to see it if the referee missed it. So I just thought it was a very strange decision, and it's a mistake. I'm sure the officials today will be disappointed. But it was a really bad decision, I felt.
Kay, you were watching from home. What did you make of it? Because obviously multiple replays doesn't help officials in that situation. It was pretty obvious, wasn't it?
No, do you know what? I've been a bit sympathetic towards referees in the last couple of weeks, just because I saw that ref cam footage that got released from the Manchester United Spurs game, and firstly, it was terrifying watching Bruno Fernandes come to you every time you blow the whistle. But secondly, it was just like the speed at which you had to make decisions, and they're constantly in communication with whoever it was in their headphones and stuff as well. It was so hard for me to watch that, thinking they're commentating on what they're seeing immediately, and they're giving the decision in a split second. So it gave me a lot of sympathy for referees, and I think if you haven't seen that, you should go and check it out, because it does give you an insight into what's going on with a referee. And some of the decisions that we see 13 replays of, like, slowed down, they see it like that and they have to make a decision on it. But I think Wayne's absolutely right. The assistant referee should have helped him out there, because that was absolutely ludicrous. At no point did you see, he wasn't in the box. I mean, he wasn't outside the box. It was like in the box. So
I think what that ref cam shows you, it shows you the speed of the game and the speed at which obviously the players have to think, but also the referee and the officials have to think how fit the officials have to be to keep up with play as well. And so yeah, I think no one's denying it's a very difficult job to do, but I think that's where the referees need some help, and they've been getting it obviously from VAR, and not to have that now. Because there was a few other times the linesman could have flagged and should have flagged, really. I think the Tammy Abraham goal, he will have been right in line with that. I think he could have quite clearly seen that. So I think there's over reliance on VAR, and unfortunately now the officials are used to that, and where they've been getting that help, and it's been getting them out of jail at times, or they're waiting for that to make the decision. With no VAR, they have to make the decision, and they're probably used to keep the flag down, and that's what's caused the decision yesterday.
Okay, well, fortunately, the decisions ultimately didn't affect the outcome because most of them went against Newcastle, as Eddie Howe was able to smile about when I spoke to him post-match. But let's bring in someone who has a fair share of experience in having to make those big decisions in the big moments without VAR. Graham Scott, former Premier League referee, joins us now. Graham, you've just been listening in to what Wayne and Kay said, and I'm sure you've seen everything that's been said following that game. How much sympathy do you have with the officials and where do you stand on it?
Yeah, cool. Both sympathy and empathy, I think, because we've been there. We all make those mistakes, and afterwards you sometimes can't believe what you're seeing when you watch it back. You think, "How did I get that wrong?" There's lots of different types of decision in the list, and I don't think it's fair to say the referees and the assistant referees are anyway hiding behind VAR. I don't think that's fair. Obviously, I work with them closely, and I know these guys. They're not like that. It's not how their minds work. It's not how their processes work. I spent half my career with VAR and half without it. The other way around, of course, without it first. And then when I was in the Premier League, I was still dropping into the Championship quite often. So you're in and out. And your processes essentially stay the same. What has changed, though, is with VAR, you don't have that spell in a game where you've made a really big error and you now have to reset and go again. Because the VAR has basically either told you either put it right for you, by telling you go and have another look and you change your decision, or they've said that it's not a clear and obvious error. So you may come off the pitch and think, actually, I would have been better off giving a penalty or not, or giving a goal or whatever. But at least the VAR's confirmed it's not a terrible call. Yesterday's the handball is a terrible call. I mean, there's no defending it. It really is a bad piece of refereeing. It's a bit of a combination. It's not just the assistant. The assistant will be focused on the offside in the middle, potential offside in the middle. We're trying to take a snapshot of where everyone is because we all know how complicated offside can be. And the referees probably started to scan in the middle of the box as well, and they've both kind of missed it, and then they've deduced it must have been handball, and they're not sure where it is. And our training was always, if you're not sure whether it's in or out, put it outside. It's still a really bad call. And earlier this season, there was this very, very similar incident in the Burnley-Liverpool game. In the very last minute, Michael Oliver's the referee, and he nails it. He sees the handball. It's exactly the same incident if you saw it. It's exactly the same sort of situation. The cross from close quarters, arm up in the air. He sees it, gives the pen without any help from his assistant. And that is that's the kind of difference between the very, 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 very best referees. And Chris Cabana is a top ref, by the way. He is one of our best.
Graham, will you have known at half time that you've made that error, or would that be after the game?
Well, the official answer is no. I'll leave that hanging because you'll know what the unofficial answer is.
Good question, Wayne. I think we've just got an answer without getting an answer there.
There's a TV in the change room that's supposed to be off. Okay?
Did you turn it on?
Yeah. I'll leave it hanging. Well, not no and yes, and it depended. Sometimes I didn't want to see stuff actually. So if I come off at half time, I sometimes no, I don't want to know. I want to go out with a clear mind in the second half. And other times you felt actually it would be helpful to know. I used to generally think it was better not to know. But whether he knew yes or no, I don't know actually. Of course, I'm teasing you slightly.
How did VAR change your thinking? Because obviously you said there you started without it, then you had it, and you said your processes changed the same. But VAR must, even subconsciously, in the back of your mind, you're going to get that help, and that's the psychology that I'm intrigued about. Because for refs now, I thought Alan Shearer made a really good point. Maybe you'll say he went a bit harsh, saying that they're petrified to make a decision. But it must be really weird when they've started without VAR, got VAR, and then they have to occasionally do these games without VAR.
It is difficult and it is different. I think petrified is very unfair, but I can see how he would come to that conclusion, having he's not done the job, has he? And it is what it looks like. In my case, I think we all found it really difficult when we were first overturned. It felt like a real stigma that we've obviously made this terrible error and someone's had to put it right. And we felt bad. We felt we failed. And yet the people in the game said, no, this is better. Well done for over... I remember going to the screen twice. Chris Cabana was the VAR, funnily enough, at Southampton one day. And I had made two errors in the same game and he put them both right for me. And I got praised on Match of the Day. It's like, no, I've had a terrible game. I've got two really bad calls. So we went through a bit of a journey on that, and now we're more comfortable. I think all the refs are more comfortable accepting that VAR's there is going to put those howlers right, if you like. But as I said earlier, you then at least can move on with the rest of the game much more readily. You feel more comfortable. You know that you've likely got it right, or that it's not that bad. If it was wrong, it's in the margins. It will divide opinion. There'll be one who says it is and one who says it isn't. And what would have happened yesterday, I'm sure from seeing the pictures, that they've not managed to reset from what would be one clear error or potential error. They wouldn't know. They don't know how the Digne tackle's going to land with the wider footballing public. Those tackles divide opinion as well. You'll get some people who say that's a stick on red, and someone else will go, oh, come on, he's glancing blow and then he's caught his foot. What are you on about? So there isn't a consensus on those that you can be sure about in the moment. So you've got to be able to move on to the next decision, and that is easier with VAR, no question, than it is without it. And I guess that's what's been going on. That's what would have been going on yesterday, and there's a danger it can scramble people's brains. I'm not saying that's what happened, but there is certainly a danger that it can.
Did you like it with VAR then? Did you prefer it? You went on a journey, as you said.
Yeah, as a referee, you do prefer it because like yesterday, you that handball is just got to be put right, isn't it? I mean, whatever system of VAR we end up with, and it's clearly forever in a sense of transition, you've got to put that one right. That's got to be one where you'd say the technology's got to be used. Everyone knows within 2 seconds that that's wrong. So why not use it? But where we tend to have the debate is too much VAR on one hand, because people complain it interferes with the game rather too much. I'm in that camp. I'd much rather have had much less of it. And then we have but we've got to have it, because if without it, then we have an offside goal, we have a missed penalty that should have been given, that are pretty clear, and we can put them right pretty quickly. So as a game, we need to have a more mature conversation about what we really want from this technology and how is it going to work for the interests of everyone in football. Most importantly, the fans in the stadium. They are the people who are being shortchanged most. And I feel every sympathy for people sitting and standing around in the freezing cold in the middle of February, probably raining. It usually has been, isn't it? And waiting interminably for technology to deliver a decision, and we've got to do better. Surely we've got to do better than that.
It gets a lot of decisions right, but it gets some big decisions wrong as well, which is frustrating because you're hoping and expecting it to get it right. And for me, just the emotion which is being taken out of the game which everyone loved for the passion of it and the emotion of it, and that's year by year, that's getting drained out of the game. And I just think before long, it's going to be, it's not going to be as entertaining, if you like, and people will get fed up with it. So it was like and also, I don't know if you've seen the Burton game yesterday, the red card in that game. I didn't understand the fact, because he gave a yellow card first, didn't he?
He had the yellow card out of his pocket, yeah.
Yeah, and then he changed it to a red. Is there anything being said on why he done that?
I don't know why. I think there's been a tendency recently for referees to be much too quick getting cards out of their pockets. Take your time, see how the land lies, and to get information from your team, and then get a card out. But there is a sweet spot, and as we know, and you know this as a player, players will try and influence that decision-making process. So if you wait for too long, you look hesitant, you don't look in control. Now the players are telling you what the outcome should be, you're getting surrounded, and you end up with a poor process. So yesterday, I think the referee would have been better off waiting just a bit, would have had a better feel for what was expected. I don't think it's not the worst tackle, but because of the consequences of it and the fact that he uses both his legs and the other player's leg gets trapped, I think it's a red card.
I think at first view it looked yellow, and then I think it's probably 50-50.
Yeah,
when it slows down.
I think if we did have VAR at Burton Albion, I think we'd be looking at backing either call. I don't think you'd send the referee to the screen. Can't be sure, of course, but I suspect what would happen.
If you've made a mistake in the first half, does it sort of affect how you go into the second half if you know you've made a mistake?
I think it affects some more than others. As I said, I tried not to carry it around with me, so I would not want to know at half time. I'd rather go out to the second half and just referee each decision as it comes. And I would sometimes say this to players on the field, like, I just move on to the next decision. That's of course the noble aim. Sometimes it isn't always possible, and sometimes you do carry it. But the thing about VAR is it did remove the most egregious errors, the really ones that really are wrong, because you if the VAR is doing its job, and of course it normally does. I mean, let's be fair, it does get most things right. Wayne says there's been a few that he hasn't liked this season. There's been certainly a couple that have been plain wrong, but most of the others, he and I could look at pictures and go, well, I think it is, and he might think it isn't, and all that. We'd be discussing it and probably never agree. So the psychology is difficult, but I think it's easier for the referees with VAR. But it's always still a challenge, of course.
I suppose that's the same as a player, really. When a player makes a big mistake, and the one thing as teammates you're doing is trying to encourage them to forget about it. But obviously, I know I've made them mistakes as well. It is difficult sometimes to put that to the back of your mind. So I suppose it's very similar to that.
It is, but I mean, but then if you miss a sitter in the first half and score a hat-trick in the second, they'll probably still make you man of the match. Whereas for us, if we make a howler in the first half,
the referee's never going to be man of the match.
Quite rightly. I don't want the champagne or whatever they give out these. I wouldn't drink it. No, it is a fair analogy though, nonetheless.
Graham, I was going to ask as well. Do you think if you've been on a run of doing certain games where VAR is present and then dropping down, for example, into the Championship where it isn't, it's a bit harder? Because I think, it's two different skills, isn't it? Refereeing with and without VAR. Yeah. Do you think it's right that referees should have to drop down and go to the Championship, or?
Yeah, well, there's not much choice, and also, of course, it works the other way. So we've had 3 referees doing games in the Premier League who haven't been used to refereeing in the Premier League, so they've got to change all their processes too. So they've got to delay the whistle, for example. So you've got a situation where the ball's played forward, the assistant's saying, I'm delaying my flag. Number 9 was offside, but I'm going to delay because it's tight, and then we're going to have to see the tack out. And eventually, the ball goes in the goal. Then they've got to go through that process. And equally, you could have a situation at a corner where you think, well, that's a foul, that's a defensive free kick. All your training up to the Championship is give it early, give it quickly, stop the game, because then the ball goes in the goal. It's like, well, the goalkeeper didn't try and save it anyway. So, whereas in the Premier League, you've got to wait. And that's quite a difficult transition to make. But I don't see any alternative than referees flipping between the two, because you can't just have 10 refs who do all 10 games every week. You're always going to have to rotate. And if you go a couple of weeks without a game in the Premier League, you need a game in the Championship to keep yourself match fit and sharp and making decisions and doing the job. So it's always going to be part of the game. And I don't think we should have VAR in the Championship. I think the Championship is great competition as it is. Leave it alone.
For me that's very interesting, because the Premiership is a great competition. So why not leave the Premier League on? So
I think that's a debate for the game.
Exactly. And the Championship is a great competition, and obviously, when we used to get referees dropping down from the Premier League, I didn't like it at all, because I did feel they refed the game a little bit different, and they did wait a bit longer, or they didn't make a decision because they might have that backup of VAR. So where some managers might have liked it, I didn't like it, because I just felt that the referees didn't ref the game as they seen it. They were waiting for that out, in my opinion.
I think they would. That wouldn't have been the case, honestly, Wayne. It really wouldn't. But you do see the game. The Premier League is different, as you know, and it's played at a different pace, and the expectations are slightly different. So the Championship is a bit more physical. So you're often especially early in a game as a referee, you're trying to gauge what's expected. What do these teams expect today from that level of contact? Are they expecting a free kick, or do they want me to play on? And quite often the Championship 9v5 situations, they'll give each other a good clatter and then they'll get up and carry on. So you think, okay, well, I'll leave that alone then. But you're trying to find that sweet spot of what level of intervention that game needs, and you're adjusting from what you're used to. So you're right that you'll see different outcomes, definitely. And I can understand you wouldn't like that, because you want to know what you're going to get. But it's not because VAR isn't in the background. That wouldn't be. There are different.
I don't mean the refs are just used to it. So naturally, when you're used to something, your brain's used to making a decision. Then I think it's very difficult just to come away from that for one game. I think it needs time to obviously to get your brain ready to make them decisions.
Do you think having former players helps? Because there's always a talk about getting former players in a VAR room and helping out with it. How do you think that would play out, Graham? Do you think that's a viable suggestion?
Not really. I mean, the first thing I'd say is that pretty much all the Premier League refs played. I mean, it's not like we'd never kicked a ball. I played semi-pro, not great, not pretending I was any good, but I did play in goal. And a lot of the current Premier League refs were academy standard players or playing representative football as young men, as they all are. And we do have a very good understanding of the game. I don't think it's fair to say that we don't. There's no barriers to ex-players becoming refs. There never have been. So
Wayne, you can do it.
Anytime you're welcome.
No, but I think you get the same. Obviously, it's such a difficult job to do. I wouldn't like to do it, but you get the same outcomes really, because you see how many times you as pundits we sat there and we think different decisions. So I think it'd be the same outcomes really if that was the case.
I think there are just occasions when players have a better understanding, or people who've been at the very top of the game have a better understanding of a player's true motivations. So I might give him the benefit of the doubt that he's not gone to do him, sort of thing. And the next player might say, no, he trust me, he knows what he's doing there. But there are not many of those that we come across. But other than that example, I think I don't see any great value. But in any event, we do talk to and listen to the PFA, the LMA. We have people into the VAR hub all the time at training sessions. I'm sure if Wayne wanted to come in at one Friday and meet the team and sit through a session, they'd be delighted to have him in, and it's true with other pundits. They've all been invited, I think, at different times. I'm not sure many have taken up the invitation. Actually go and have a go if you think you're hard enough, I would say.
I'd love to see Wayne deal with the first person that tries to give him abuse on the pitch.
Do you know what? You know when you're training, the coaches, they're petrified to referee the games in training because they know they're just going to get abused. So the coaches are petrified to do it.
It actually made me laugh at the beginning of this chat when Kay said about the ref cam and how petrified he was every time he saw Bruno Fernandes running at him. I thought, I wonder what it was like for Graham Scott when he had Wayne Rooney running at him. What was Wayne like, Graham?
He did. Well, he did. So I did Everton Tottenham, and Wayne went back there. I gave him his 100th yellow card in the Premier League.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't. I didn't give him 100 yellow cards. I gave him the 100th. It wasn't a great challenge, Wayne. I was on Dele Alli late in the game. I think you were a bit frustrated, to be fair. The game hadn't gone well for Everton.
I think they were like 3-0 up after.
They were 3-0 up early. Yeah. He came running over to me, Wayne. So I've forgotten it was Vertonghen, I think, tackled him, won the ball, and Wayne ran over to me and said, "Is he allowed to run into me, smash into me, and foul me like that?" And I said, "No, he's not, Wayne. But that's not what just happened." And he did kind of. Oh, okay, fair enough. And you were very good after that, I have to say. You were very good after
Wait, the fear in Wayne's face when you started telling that story, he was like, oh no, what's coming?
No, because listen, I know I think there's a famous one with, I think it was Graham Poll, where it was the Arsenal Man United game, Keenan Vieira one, where every time I watch that back, it's disappointing to see that you're that way. And there was a few, but I think what's good with RefCam now is obviously you see. I think the players now seem a lot more respectful to the referees, and of course you're going to have moments where they're not. But I think you see Conor Gallagher laughing with the referee and Luke Shaw going over. So I think they're a little bit more respectful.
They are. It's much better on the field than it looks on the TV. That was Michael Oliver, the most recent one, and he has a particularly good rapport with almost all the players. He's been around a long time. He's been around longer than almost all the players now. So I used to find it easier when I'd been on the list longer than the players had been in the league, because I was already there and they joined. Whereas when I was new, I was the new boy and they were sizing me up. It's much more respectful, and most of the relationships we have with players are good, especially just normal running commentary during the game. But clearly, when a really big decision comes, they're going to try and influence it, and I would do the same if I was playing, of course.
Would you have liked RefCam, Graham, when you were reffing?
Yeah, I mean, I would have done. I would have been happy for my comms to be broadcast as well, because I always tried to speak very calmly and clearly and politely. I didn't swear, well, not very often. But some of the referees wouldn't like that so much. They're used to being able to have a different kind of banter, if you like, with players, and banter in the proper sense, not this kind of unofficial, inappropriate language. Yeah, I would have liked it. I think it does help bring to life what it's really like and how fast it is. I challenge anyone who talks about assistant referees' decisions, go and buy a ticket for row A in a Premier League game at a stadium, sit behind the assistant on the edge of the box and try and make offside judgments from a seated position when you're, I mean, you've got to run up and down with the flag. It's so fast. It's unbelievably quick. And the players are all these different moving parts. Those assistant referees are amazing at their accuracy and ability to judge offside. And we get the odd one like yesterday where it's wrong, but even that is, they put a still frame on social media. It's like, well, I can tell off a still frame, but show me what the picture half a second earlier, show me the picture half a second later, and I bet at some point the player's onside. So it would have been much more challenging than the still image would suggest.
I've got a question. I think this is for Wayne and Graham. I think, did you ever get play at one team where the players would crowd around you all the time when there was decisions to be made? And is that something like that managers sometimes tell players, where they're like, oh, just get onto the ref, as soon as he makes a decision, win the battle or something like that?
Well, from players' point of view, we did, yeah. I think it was well known at Man United that we used to go around. Not so much. It was more the generation before our team, but we still, like the manager would say to us, get round the referee and try and make a decision. The problem we had was every time you do it, if you get booked for dissent, the manager would fine you. So it was like, well, you're going to fine us anyway if you do that. So, but there was times, yeah. I think Mourinho as well as teams were quite clever with it. Well, not clever, but trying to put pressure on the referees. Where I think naturally it would, if you've got that many players coming up to you and obviously making it. Was it now? If it's 3 or 4 players around you, you get booked.
The third one in should be, yeah.
The third one, yeah. So
it shouldn't even really be 2, but yeah. I mean, certainly we of course we're fully aware that some teams are doing it as a tactic, as a strategy. I mean, it's obvious, and then you deal with it. You'd have to deal with it. I think the refs could be a bit stronger on it, I have to admit, but I was one of them, and I would have tolerated more than I should have. But it's clearly it's deliberate, it's coached, it's taught, and it's sad really that it's done. But if one team does it, the other team of course feels obliged to do it, because you can't let the other lot get in there and have their say, and you be left. You might miss out. So I do understand what happens.
I've got one more question, Graham. Was it harder towards the end of your career to keep up with the athletes? Not because of your age, but because of the level of fitness that, with players.
I'm always fascinated about how referees keep so fit, because you do have to be so incredibly fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we do similar training programs, fitness training, similar to the players, and we just don't do the ball work, so we'd get to go home a bit earlier. But no.
So there's training, all you refs get together?
Yeah, we get certain training, GPS units, a lot, of course, I mean, heart rate monitors.
Well, so you all do it together, or do you just do it remotely?
It's a combination. So most of my training I would have done on my own, because there was no other referee in my immediate vicinity who was full time. So, but then we train twice a week in the gym collectively in regional centres, and then we have our training camps at Loughborough, which are at least once a month. Sometimes they come around more often than that. And then there's separate VAR training every week. So there's a whole program going on the whole time. But fitness-wise, of course, it got much harder. My career went on it was strange, because when I started, which was in 2014, I did Burnley Villa, my first game, and it was incredibly quick, and the intensity of the game extended well into the second half, which I wasn't used to. Normally the intensity eased off. So I was really blowing. I didn't think I was going to survive, but I did, fortunately. And then we had the Guardiola years and the Klopp years, where the game was become much more tactical and people playing through the thirds, and that became physically a bit easier. And now teams are mixing it up much more, aren't they? So we're seeing much more. We're seeing all types of football. We're seeing them play from the back, but also we're seeing the goalkeeper knocking it long again, the quick long pass to catch the other opposition out, and that's made it more difficult. And also Howard's philosophy is to get the referee up ahead of the game a bit more. Whereas before we tended to sit behind the ball and just sweep in behind. this is quite technical, but it does mean you're expected to be ahead of the game and therefore be sprinting to get there constantly. And if you watch particularly the games in Europe, they're forever doing these long shuttle runs, and they're running more than the central midfielders now, which is 12, 13, 14k sometimes.
Well, Graham, we've kind of gone off in so many different directions here. Sorry, even asking you about your training now and offering to come along and podcast from there. But I just wondered, bringing it back to Saturday night at Villa Park, and you've mentioned that Chris Kavanagh's a top ref. He wouldn't be in that position, of course, if he wasn't. But I just wonder what happens next. How will he be supported? How will that be reviewed to almost help him ensure that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, so he will have... there's a protracted process in the Premier League. This is an FA Cup tie, so it'll be slightly shorter, but he will have a just conversation with his coach. We have coaches, so each coach, there's a handful of coaches that basically work with 4 or 5, 6 refs, and he will have a one-to-one conversation with him, and then they will have a team meeting, probably today, possibly tomorrow, where they'll go through the game and they'll unpick. They'll be able to hear the audio, and they'll unpick. They will unpick the everything that happened, and put a plan in place for next time. In particular, around the handball, one of those 2 officials has got to lead on that decision next time to make sure they don't miss it. Whereas instead, they've kind of both lost a bit of focus, I suspect, and it's been missed as a consequence.
Okay, well, Graham, thank you so much. We've kept you a bit longer than I think we initially planned, but thank you. It was really interesting to hear a completely different side, and also to hear quite a nice story, actually. I thought it was going to be a worse one about Wayne with referees.
There are others. Yeah,
we'll save them for next time.
It's a family show.
Yeah, Graham, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Okay, before we go, 2 more stories from this week. Man United's winning run came to an end at West Ham. It finished 1-1. Wayne, it looked like they were going to do it, but of course, they didn't in the end. What did you make of it? What's the feeling like? Because at least they didn't lose.
I thought West Ham played well. I thought United a little bit flat in the game. I felt obviously been brilliant the first 4 games since Michael Carrick's gone in. I think he made a big call, Michael, in Mbeumo and Cunha, changing them 2 around, and I think that maybe affected the way they play, because Mbeumo is one who's running behind, and Cunha coming in off the side has been better, or playing as a 10 at times. So I think that little change maybe put United on the back foot a little bit, but done well to come back in the end. Great finish by Sesko, so point is very important, especially at this stage of the season.
I'd take the 13 points out of 15, to be honest with you. I think it was the only thing I was sort of worried about was we didn't have as much time to prepare as we usually did for a game. It was like a midweek game, and I feel like at times some of the players looked a bit leggy, and I think that's where like squad rotation hasn't been a thing of late. But having said that, if Casemiro's goal was given, do you know what I mean? Like, it could have completely have changed the game, and we could have gone on to win it. But I think from a Man United's fan perspective, if you said, would you take 13 points out of 15 from that run of games, everybody would have like bitten your hand off. And Michael Carrick's still unbeaten as Man United manager, and that is something to be celebrated. And
the good news is the next game isn't until Monday the 23rd of Feb, so if what you're saying is right, Kay, and there was any signs of kind of tiredness, got a little bit of time.
Yeah, I'm going that game.
It's the Wayne Rooney derby, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't wear your pyjamas.
I thought it was a Phil Neville derby.
The England head coach as well, Wayne, Thomas Tuchel, is staying until 2028. He was actually at Villa Park yesterday. I'm sure you saw the camera kind of panned him. He was in the tunnel post-match as well. Saw him kind of talking to some of the England players in there. They were laughing and joking. Looked like they were all enjoying each other's company a lot. But what did you make of that decision and the timing of the decision?
I think it's very clever from the FA. And from Thomas Tuchel, if he wanted to stay beyond the World Cup, which he clearly does, it takes away now all the speculation on. Obviously, there's a few clubs who are looking for a manager in the summer, and Thomas Tuchel will be right at the top of their list, I imagine. So it takes all that speculation away on Thomas while England's at the World Cup, which I think I remember when Van Gaal agreed to become Man United manager, and he went to World Cup with Holland, and you're having all the speculation, you still, a lot of talk about him and stuff, where now, and I think it's right to do it from the FA and Tuchel. They've agreed that he'll stay till 2028, and and there's no speculation now. The only focus is on the World Cup, so I think that's definitely the right decision.
Kay, as an England fan, pleased that it's just sorted. It does look like they're going on the right track with Tuchel. I know a lot of people have said that in the past doing this hasn't worked so well for England.
I think, do you know what? I think for all the reasons Wayne just outlined, it is a good decision on behalf of the FA. But I do think sometimes it's a bit premature. I'd want to see how he would do at a tournament before the deal was given. But I guess it's good for the players, and I guess it's good for the camp as well when there isn't any sort of noise surrounding a manager's future when you're going into a tournament. But I think it makes the managerial search for a lot of clubs that are looking for a manager in the summer a lot harder, because there's not a lot of top managers around that are out of a job. It's interesting that there's talks of Carlo Ancelotti getting a new contract, and I think he's taken, like, he's gone to Brazil. He's watched a few games on a Copacabana beach, and he's gone, what, that contract extension? Yeah, give that here. I'll do that right now. But it's interesting because there's not many managers available now. You're looking at like De Zerbi, Nagelsmann. I think he's out of contract after the World Cup.
Go on, mention your mate.
Yeah. Xabi Alonso. Yeah, but yeah, Xabi Alonso as well. Yeah. But there's not many that are free. So like, if you're looking at like a Manchester United or a Real Madrid or whatever, it's like, who'd you go for?
But I think it also, for Tuchel, if he knew he was just doing the World Cup and then he was going, then I think he'd make decisions with no fear of the impact that's going to have on that player moving forward. Where now, for instance, it'd be easier for him to leave a Jude Bellingham out, or Phil Foden, or whatever player that is, and not have any consequences beyond the World Cup. Where now he's obviously going to be making decisions on, right, well, this isn't just a one-time, pick that I'm picking for the World Cup. I need to keep this player for the next tournament. So I think it will be it's certainly a positive to keep him there for the next 2 years, but also I think it will affect slightly, not massively, but it will slightly affect his selection of team.
Is that good or bad, Wayne?
I think it's good because, listen, you can get caught up with this player shouldn't be in the World Cup. Or we've got five number 10s who are all world class number 10s, if you like. If that's the case, well, I still think you need to. I still think Thomas Tuchel will pick a team. Like, for instance, if England are starting the World Cup tomorrow, I think Morgan Rogers starts ahead of Bellingham and Foden, if they're all in the squad. So I think it won't affect him that much, but I just think it'll be in the back of his mind that, right, if I leave, which Jude Bellingham should never be left out of that squad anyway, if that's the case. But if there is any doubts, he knows he's got to deal with it then beyond the World Cup.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So from a reporter's point of view, I'm glad that it's done, because otherwise every interview would have been saying, any closer to your decision? Any closer to your decisions? Yeah, feels like everyone's got a bit of clarity. Wayne, we're recording a bit earlier on Sunday today. Can you tell us part of the reason why? Where are you off to?
I don't know, it's my son's birthday. My son's 8th birthday today, so we're going to, I don't know what it's called, Waterland or a water park in Stoke. So, yeah, can't wait.
You love a water park, don't you?
Yeah, no, I've been before. I've been once before with me 12-year-old now, but so I think they're just at that age with him and his friend to where they want to go on the slides and stuff. So
okay, then that's where we'll leave it. Thank you, Wayne. Have a brilliant day on the water slides. I can't wait for people. Okay, imagine being at that water park and all of a sudden being like, "That's Wayne Rooney at the top of the log flume."
Yeah, it'll be certainly some surprise. There's a bunch of people in Stoke that don't know what they're in for today.
Have a good one. Happy birthday to your son as well. That's where we'll leave it. Thanks as always for listening to the show. We'll be back on Friday. Remind you can watch the Wayne Rooney Show on the BBC Sport YouTube and iPlayer, or you can listen on BBC Sounds.